People buy from people they like. Have you all heard that since time immemorial?
Yeah, it's
sales, right?
nauseating.
Yeah. People buy from people they like. I heard it early on, and I was just with a client about a month and a half ago, and there were some newer sales folks, less tenured, and they were helping each other with the sales wisdom they had already gathered. And one of them said, yeah, something I learned early on is that people buy from people they like. And that's what got me thinking about this topic, because I, for years, have thought that's not quite true. And I want to explore that together with you today. So what I first want to do is cover the agenda and find out, why in the world are you here? What do you hope to get out of today? And in addition to that, what would make your selling life easier? I'd love to hear from you. And then we're going to talk about people buy from people they like. Is that really true? I'll provide you with 3 practical tips to help you sell more. And then I've got a special offer for you at the end, because it's a webinar and you can't have a webinar without a special offer, right? So I've got one of those for you at the end if you find value in anything that you come across today and anything we discuss. So I want to hear from you, and I'm going to take some notes here. Why are you here today? What do you hope to get out of it? You can put it into chat, or you can take yourself off mute.
Dang. All right, I'll jump in. This is Aaron Brown. Listen, sales evolves all the time. The selling climate evolves all the time. If we're not building our tools and developing new tools and sharpening our tools, then we're going to get passed up. You know what I mean? So I'm always looking for new perspective on building relationships. And I'm not very likable at all, so I need to learn how to be successful without being likable.
I was with you for a little bit of time. I would argue that. I think you're fine.
Yeah, Anthony, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron, my friend. So, Brandon, so I guess I'm here to hopefully get the answer, because it's nauseating when people say, they buy from people that they like.
Yeah.
I think that buyers are, I call it the IGO method, which is like, buyers are in the business of improving, their company, growing their company, and finding opportunities that'll better suit their company. So whether they like you or not, if you have a valued product or products, they'll buy whether, they like you or not. So that's kind of my philosophy, but I don't know if other people would argue that. So.
Okay, if you provide value, they buy. Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Let me go to the chat here and look at a few. Refresh previous training. Awesome. So I'm going to put that into the sharpen a new perspective. Define new tips to increase revenue. Put more money in my pocket. Mert, did any of you get into sales because you thought this was a great way to make a little bit of money? Anybody interested in the money part of sales? Right? Absolutely. And that's A-okay. It's okay to provide for your family. It's okay to do well in your chosen profession. So Mert, absolutely. I want to help put some more money into your pocket. Matthew says, always eager to learn more ways to connect with customers, grow in the industry. I like it. So I'm going to put dollars, grow. What else do we want out of it? Anthony, it's so good to see you. I love that you're here. Trying to determine how to differentiate yourselves besides being likable. Awesome. If you are not following Anthony, my friends, you ought to follow him on LinkedIn, Anthony Orsini. He and I work together at Janik Performance Group. He is a quality top sales professional who doesn't need this conversation today, but he's kind of like Tom Brady. He's always going to take his game to the next level.
Well, those are some big shoes to fill there, Brandon.
You do it well. You have it, my friend. Meredith says, I don't know what I don't know. Meredith, fantastic. Discovering blind spots. Love that. I can't spell when everybody's watching me. Fairly new to sales, coming from ops. Jeffrey. Okay, so here's the good news, Jeffrey. Coming from ops. Some of the very best sales professionals I've ever worked with are those who have a technical or an operational background. Does anybody want to venture a guess as to why that is? That those people often make for the best salespeople, and it's not because they have the knowledge.
No, Brandon, they know how to deal with customers, and they know how to, deal with multiple personalities, and a lot of times they're getting calls that are just not good, and they have to,
Awesome.
talk people off the bridge and that kind of good stuff.
You-
Conflict resolution, right?
Bingo, Keegan.
Yeah,
They're
I'm not good with words, so conflict resolution could sum up what I was trying to say. I'm the dumb football player, so feel free to sum up what I need to say.
Keegan is not only a salesperson and a project manager, he's a wordsmith. And so if you need a blog written, reach out to him. He's fantastic at that. Yeah, you both are exactly right. People from a technical and an operational background. Yes, their knowledge is great and it's helpful and it helps create better salespeople. But their whole come from is problem resolution. They are like vanilla ice. If there was a problem, you'll all solve it. The problem with most sales professionals is we think we know what the problem is, but we don't take the time to investigate it the same way a technical or operational person would, because we have commission tied to getting to the sale as quickly as possible. So what we do is we jump over some of the necessary steps, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Ed, always looking for new ideas and tools. That's what makes you successful, my friend. Building trust, says Keegan. That's an interesting one, Keegan. Especially from you, because you're already great at that. I'm glad you're here to help everybody else with that. And I want to level up my sales game. That's good. Okay, great. Well, that's helpful. I appreciate you all sharing that with me. That'll help guide our conversation. And indeed, these are the kinds of things that I do want to cover today. Gaining new perspective, leveling up, growing. And very importantly, one of the things I want to talk about is meeting customers' needs. So before we get into that, though, let me just do a quick little, hey, here's who I am. My mom would be proud if she knew all these things about me. So I've got about 25 years, sales management, leadership, human performance. Mostly what I do in my own mind is I study human behavior and I see what creates success. And I mean success in any area of life. So be it sales, be it entrepreneurship, be it relationships, I love to study what creates success. I'm fascinated by the human condition. And then I like to share that with other people. I've written a book. I've written a couple other things. I've written a program to help people recognize and recover from emotional abuse. So a lot of different areas of interest of mine, all involving how do I help people reach their potential? How do I help them live better lives? So I want to start with a story. In the year 2003, my boss called me into the office. I live here in Denver, Colorado. He called me into the office and he said, hey, read this article about the Colorado Rockies. Any of you who are Rockies fans, apologize for this picture. It's really stinging to Rockies fans that they traded Nolan Arenado and got, what did they get back? Oh, they still had to pay out his contract. Anyway, not important in the story. So 2003, before Arenado was even with the team though, my boss calls me in and he said, hey, read this article about the Rockies. And it was about how the Colorado Rockies were hitting amazingly well at home and really poorly on the road. Now they came to town, they were an expansion team, and they came to town in 1993, and they had done the same every year. They had hit really well on the road, really well at home and terribly on the road. So this wasn't really out of the ordinary, but this year, the difference was really pronounced. So I read the article and my boss then asked, okay, what do you think accounts for this difference? And I said, well, we always say it's the altitude, right? The ball travels further here in Denver because we've got mile high, the air is thinner. So therefore they're going to hit better at home and not as well on the road. He said, yeah, sure, that's it. That accounts for part of it. But what's really going on? I said, well, it's their mindset. They've convinced themselves that they can't hit on the road. And now they're fulfilling that prophecy. He said, you're exactly right. They need our help. Call them. So we were a leadership development firm and we helped get mindsets right that led the right culture and produced the right results. So later that day, I reached out to them and basically said, hey, this is Brandon Pipkin from Enlightened Leadership. We're a boutique leadership development firm here in town. We help organizations create championship mindsets that drive the right cultures and therefore produce the right results. For you, that could translate into on-field results. We were able to help the Pittsburgh Steelers the year that they went to the Super Bowl. If you'd be interested to see if we could help you do some similar things, give me a call at this number. So sure enough, we get a call back, secretary to the president. Yeah, come on in. We'd love to talk to you. Kind of a side note of the story. I went back to Michael once we set up this meeting with the Rockies. And I said, hey, we have a meeting with the Rockies Tuesday at 3. And he looked at me dumbfounded. What are you talking about? I said, we have a meeting with the Rockies Tuesday at 3. His eyes widened, his jaw dropped, and he said, oh, I was just kidding. I didn't think you'd really call them. My bad, Michael. I'm dumb enough that I actually did. Now we have a new flagship client. My apologies. So we met with the Rockies, and my main contact was Dan O'Dowd. He was the general manager of the team. Dan and I scoped out what he wanted and needed. I took it back to my team, and the general manager and VP, not Michael, my boss, but the general manager and the VP took what I had said and blew it up into a proposal multiple times larger than what Dan really wanted. And they said, go present this to him. Have any of you ever been in that situation? Your boss or the company wants you to present something that's not aligned with discussions you've had with the client. So they said, go present this. And I said, I'm not really comfortable presenting that. That's not what Dan wants. And they said, no, this is what he really needs. I said, yeah, not so much. That's not what he said. And they said, listen, this is what he really ultimately needs. And this is a great opportunity for us as an organization to take our game to the next level by partnering with a flagship client. Go present this. So dutifully, I went in, I started to present this to Dan. And as I was in the middle of presenting, he stopped me and he said, hey, Brandon, did you listen to me last time we talked? I said, yeah, Dan, I listened to you. So why did you present this to me? I did my very best salesperson tap dance. You all know what it looks like. Well, Dan, we thought that ultimately this is what would really help you, and this is what would benefit the organization, and this is where you really wanted to be ultimately. And then I went back to presenting. And he stopped me again. Hey, Brandon, did you listen to me last time we talked? Yeah, Dan. So why are you presenting this to me? Dan asked me that same question a second time. What do you think Dan was really asking me? Put it into the chat. What is your best guess? What was Dan really asking? Are you here for me or for you? Are you interested in my needs or your needs? Did you listen to me? Why are you presenting something I didn't ask for? Don't waste my time with what I don't need. I love this answer, Mert. He wasn't asking me anything. He was telling me that I was trying to sell him on something he didn't need. Mert, that's really good insight. What is your goal? Yeah, he was asking, what's your goal? Give him a solution to his pains and not my gains. I like the way you put that, Lita. Give me a solution to my pains and not your company's gains. Yeah, Dan in that moment. So let's go back to the premise of today's conversation. People buy from people they like. Are you purposely trying to make us lose our division? No, Anthony, we know that they don't need my help losing the division. They'll be able to do that every year, right? So Dan wasn't asking himself if he liked me, right? Back to the premise of this conversation. He wasn't asking himself, are you a likable guy? What he was asking himself and really telling me was, Brandon, I need you to tell me where you stand. He was asking himself what all customers ask themselves. Do you understand my needs? Do you care enough to partner with me? Can I trust you to do that and take care of those needs? And will you solve my problems? Will you provide me value? Or are you just here to sell me something, your company's gains, as you had mentioned? So Dan wanted what all customers want. And what I've learned in my 11 years as a sales trainer and 25 years in sales and sales management, too many sales professionals focus on their solution and not the client's needs. So what we do is we rush to a solution before we've done a thorough discovery. And as a result, we create way too much pushback for ourselves and pressure for our clients. And they start to do the Meghan Trainor. My name is, no, my number is, no, you need to let it go. They don't want any part in it because what we're communicating is what I was communicating to Dan. I'm not really interested in what you want or need. Now, an interesting part of this story is when I was asked the second time by Dan, then why did you present this to me? I came clean and I told him, well, others in the organization thought this would be what you really want. They also saw it as an opportunity to meet our own company needs and thought that this is a good chance to partner with a flagship organization to do it. And I know this isn't what you asked for. He said, Brandon, would it be helpful if I came down to the company and told everybody exactly what I was looking for? I said, that'd be great. He looked everybody in the eye. He said, hey, what Brandon said I wanted, that's what I want. What do you guys want to do? Years later, I told this story in a group and somebody said, wow, Dan really did you a solid. I hadn't really realized what a solid it was he did. And he could have just told me, hey, Brandon, tell everyone to pound sand. He could have just told me, this isn't what I want, go back to the drawing board. But he took the time to come down and tell everybody, this is what I want. See, Dan and I had a good enough relationship. He was willing to drive down and do that for me. There's no other reason he would have done that as a general manager of a baseball team. So Dan, again, he wasn't like any other customer. He wanted certain things. They don't want us to focus on our solution. They don't want us to rush. They don't want us to focus on ourselves, because here's what they really want. Here's what the data show. 88% of buyers agreed that sales representatives, 88% of buyers agreed that they purchased from sales representatives who are trustworthy. They also said, focusing on the value is what makes prospecting calls most successful at 96%, followed by collaborating with customers, 93%. Providing market insights to give customers perspective comes in at 92%. And this second set of bullet points is from HubSpot. So HubSpot is telling us when you focus on the value that you deliver, it will make your sales calls successful, 96% influence. When you help customers understand their needs, 96 or 92% influence. Here's what we also know from the Rain Group, a global study of 500 plus business-to-business buyers and sellers. 7 in 10 buyers, 71%, said that leading a thorough discovery of their concerns, wants, and needs has a high influence on their purchasing decision. Now, leading a thorough discovery, value, trustworthy. Do you see anything about likable in there, right? Now, am I just cherry picking data? Have I selectively picked data that show that customers want somebody who's trustworthy and provides value? What's been your experience? Have you ever had a client, type in the chat, yes or no, and maybe if you've got a quick story, if anybody has a quick story, have you ever lost a customer that liked you? You had a good relationship with them, but maybe they didn't move forward with your solution. Again, you can go ahead and chat yes or no. And then if anybody has a quick story and you can tell it in a 20 to 30 second format, I'd love to hear about it. Nobody, but a few of us have lost that. Great. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anthony, I didn't have the service line they needed. I mean, that is the starkest way that you could put that right there. See, we say people buy from people they like, but as Anthony Minow points out, I didn't have the service line that they needed. A nice, Sandy, you were able to win their business at a later date. That suggests to me that there was a foundation there that went beyond just being likable. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Quick question. Do you trust somebody that you don't like? Matthew, look at Matthew's question, everybody in the chat. Do you trust somebody that you do not like? Do likability and trust go hand in hand? So here's what I have come to the firm conclusion, Matthew. People buy from people they like, whom they trust, and provide them value. Can you think of a person in your life who you trust and provides you value, but you don't like them? I mean, it's really hard to earn somebody's trust and to provide them value and for them to hate you. No, we typically like people who provide us value. If you want to know the fastest way to get a customer to like you, it's to provide them value. Stop focusing on you, stop focusing on your offering, and focus on what really solves their needs. Because people buy from people they like, whom they trust, and provide them value. So even though the title of the webinar is Debunking People Buy from People They Like, what I say is that phrase is true, but it's incomplete. They buy from people they like, whom they trust, and provide them value. So if customers fully trusted us and we consistently delivered value, what are some of the things that we would enjoy? And this comes from Trust-Based Selling. Charlie Green wrote that book. So I've just recently partnered with Trusted Advisor Associates, and this is one of their programs that I'm absolutely over the moon to deliver because it totally aligns with the way that I approach sales. If customers fully trusted us and we consistently delivered value, wouldn't we have stronger, faster agreements? And what's the value in that? They will share more helpful information in the sales process so we can get to better solutions. They'll return your calls and your emails. Consistently in every training class that I deliver, I hear, how do I get customers to call me back? Do you know the number one reason why customers don't call us back?
We don't give them a reason to.
Bingo. We don't give them a compelling reason to. Now, is this rocket surgery? No. Everybody on the call knows this. But what I have found is the greatest gap in life, the biggest canyon is not the Grand Canyon. The biggest canyon is between knowing and doing and closing that gap down. If we're not consistently providing value to our customers, they have no reason to call us back. Here's another cool thing that happens if they trust us and we provide value. They advocate for us internally. We know from LinkedIn that over half of the decision makers at an organization who feel favorably toward your solution will not advocate for you. Somebody take yourself off mute and tell me, why would they not advocate for you, even if they feel favorably toward your solution? Anthony,
You haven't equipped them to.
yes, bingo. You haven't equipped them to. It is career suicide to put their neck on the line for you if you're not going to deliver. But if you are somebody that they can trust to deliver, and they can clearly articulate your value proposition in their own internal organization, they will stick their neck out for you. They'll also bring you into the RFP process early. You'll get preferred status with procurement. What's that worth to you? Those of you who have to deal with procurements organizations. They'll forgive you of mistakes. They'll seek out and they'll take your advice. You get less objections and friction in the process. Ultimately, it's better quality of work life, and that leads to a better personal life if customers fully trusted and valued us. So it's a win-win for everybody. What are we going to do then? 3 practical tips is what I want to give you to help you be liked, trusted, and valued. The first one is to stop being likable, or at least trying to be likable. The second is asking great questions, and the third is to listen. Let me pause here before I get into these tips. Are there any questions or thoughts that are coming up for you? Take yourself off mute, pop in with anything that's coming to your mind, or put it into the chat.
I think by getting the client to trust us, it gives us a very good competitive edge.
In what way, Cassandra?
It secures our relationship with the client. So if the competitor comes in, which is often the case in the type of sales work that I do, they're less likely to entertain a proposal or less likely to allow them in.
Brilliant. Absolute truth. I'll give you a real life example from my life. I grew up knowing a man named Steve Steer. Steve is my realtor. He was in real estate from the time that I met him when I was 12 years old. So when I was buying my first home, I had a relationship with Steve. I trusted Steve. He had me do some work on one of his rental properties. So we were buddies. And I did my real estate transaction with him. When I was ready to buy a new home, Steve's the guy that I called. Now, here's what's interesting. And here's where the story really highlights people buy from people they like, whom they trust, and provide value. There's another realtor that I know named Matt. Matt and I grew up together. And Matt is phenomenal at marketing. Matt will send the most beautiful, insightful real estate pieces. He also sends me updates on my home's value. I'm not a customer of his, but he consistently provides value to me. So about 2 years ago, I was thinking, when do I want to sell this home? What's my next move here with real estate? I guess I'll call Matt when I'm ready to sell. And I realized, wait a minute, why was Matt the first person I thought of? It's because he's positioned himself as the expert in my area and in real estate, and he provides me so much value. But here's where the other part of the story is really interesting. As soon as I thought to myself, I'll call Matt when that's time, I realized, wait, why am I thinking Matt? Steve is my guy. I don't have a compelling reason to not use Steve. Both of these two provide trust, provide value, and it's an interesting opportunity to make sure, am I anchored into Steve Yeah, he's got my business because of the trust. But if I ever needed somebody else, I would turn to Matt because I can trust him and he provides me value. It's a great differentiator, Cassandra. And those two have earned my business forever. There's nobody else that's going to come in, right? That's really good. All right, so let's talk about stop trying to be likable. Too many sales professionals are still in 2022 trying to be likable, and they use the forced methods, right? Oh, you have a bass fish on your wall. I like bass fishing too. Have you ever fished at this place? Now, there's nothing wrong with noticing and commenting on things and developing a conversation around those. But if that's all you've got, you're not going to be really likable. Don't use contrived methods to be likable. Too many salespeople focus on being likable. And if you're focused on being likable, where is your focus?
You.
Yeah, it's on you. It's not on the customer. And at our core level, we as human beings, we are always scanning another person to see, can I trust you? I fought the following phrase for 25 years. People buy on emotion and they justify logically. I fought against that, and I have finally succumbed to that being the truth. I used to think to myself, no, decision by committee. There are 7 people involved. LinkedIn tells us in any business to business decision of 100 to 500 people, 7 people involved. That can't be on emotion. Actually, it is. Because if the people you're talking to aren't comfortable with you, they will mask their discomfort through logical means. They won't say, yeah, I really don't trust Brandon. What they'll say is, yeah, I just don't think he has the capability in this area that we need. Or they'll look for some other excuse logically. There's another sales trainer. His name is Anthony Cole. I love what he says here. If you are trying to be likable so that you can sell something, you're manipulative. When I heard him say that, it was so insightful. He's exactly right. If I'm trying to get somebody to like me for the purpose of doing business with them, I'm manipulating. But if I'm a likable person, if I happen to be a likable person, and I'd like to do business with the person and it aligns, then I'm in a good spot. But if I'm doing it if I'm trying to get you to like me so that you will do business, that's what we call manipulation. Love the way he says that. The second thing we can do to be liked, trusted, and provide value is ask great questions. Any of you who has been in sales for any length of time, or anyone who's a manager on this call, would probably back me up that we as sales professionals, we don't ask enough questions and we don't ask powerful questions. Having trained 15,000 sales professionals from 400 plus global organizations, what I see is that most salespeople ask enough questions to get the information they need to start to present a solution. They don't get enough information to know what the real answers are. What they also don't do is make the customer think, because they're rushing that questioning phase. And if you don't have the customer think or analyze their own situation, they're not as tied into the need for a solution, and especially not tied into you. Even if your solution is the right one, if you don't give a customer time to catch up to that fact, they're not going to go with it, even if it's the right one. So what we've done, something that we're going to give you as a special bonus is everybody on this call, you're going to receive a recording of the webinar so that you can see how great you looked during our time together. And we'll also get a resource, 21 sales questions to help build trust and add value. So in my 11 plus years of sales training, I've heard a lot of sales questions, and I've heard a lot of what works for salespeople, and I've helped them develop better questions that can work for them. So I pulled off 21 of these questions. We gave you a bonus 20-second question, a follow-on question, but 21 questions that can help you get the customer to analyze and to think, help them catch up to the fact that maybe they need a solution and why they need it. And then the third thing that you can do to become likable, trusted, and provide value is to listen. Too many sales professionals, how would you finish this sentence?
Talk too much. Talk too much.
They
Love to
do.
hear themselves.
Oh man, we love it. Most of us think that when we're listening, we're paying attention, but really we're just waiting for our turn to talk. We talk too much, and then when we are not talking, we're not really listening. Too many sales professionals don't really listen. If you are genuinely present in the moment with your client, it changes everything. They're not going to get that from the competition. The competition wants to sell them something. But if you'll slow down, become a trusted advisor to them, really learn what's going on, not so you can present a solution, but so you can help them, whatever that looks like, it'll change the game. What are some of the benefits of listening? So we've got 2 minutes for this. I want to talk through, let me back up one slide there. What are some of the benefits of listening to a customer? Go to the chat or type it in. Yeah. If you listen, clients will tell you how to sell to them. They'll tell you what you need. If you'd rather just take yourself off mute, anybody, just take yourself off mute, or you can type it into the chat. Greater insight, devil is in the details. Beautiful, Meredith.
How you establish rapport, you can, confirm what you've heard. It lets them know you're on point with them. You don't have to echo everything back to them, but it just builds in natural touch points to have more of a conversation and develop that trust.
Beautiful. Anthony, have you read Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss? Anybody on the call, have you read that?
I have not.
So I loved this book. It's a great negotiations book, but really it's a communications book. And the premise is not, how do I never split the difference and I get everything I want and you get nothing what you want, but rather it's, how do you get what you want and I get what I want? And one of the key things that Chris Voss talks about in the book is the golden words in sales. The golden word is not yes. You don't want to hear yes in sales. He said, because now salespeople have beaten the snot out of that word, that buyers will tell you yes just to get you away from them. Yes is a smokescreen now a lot of times. You don't want to hear yes. What you want to hear from a client is, that's right. You want to be able to recap their needs, as Anthony is saying, their needs, wants, and desires so well that they're able to say, that's right. And if they're able to say that's right, how do they feel?
Validated.
There it is. It's been said that the greatest human need is to feel valued. You allow them to know where your value is and how you value them when we listen. Sandy says, finding more opportunities. That's good. Opportunities. They'll let you know their true pain points. Cassandra, you got it. You find out what their real challenges are. There's a good chance you might hear something. Exactly. Right? People are dying to talk about themselves because so few people really do listen to them. People will tell you what they want and need. If you stop trying to be likable, ask good questions, and actually listen to them, you'll be able to find your needs and wants and be able to differentiate. Yep, you've got it. You've all nailed it. The more they talk, the more they share, and you learn and you win. You got it. So 3 practical tips to be liked, trusted, and provide value and differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Stop trying to be likable. Ask great questions and listen. I know it's not rocket surgery. These are simple things, but they're not easy. If they were, every sales professional would be crushing quota consistently. If they were, every buyer would be seeking every salesperson who did this out. The number one rule of selling in my mind, stop selling and you'll sell more. Stop selling by slowing things down, by focusing first on how do I provide value? What am I doing to build trust here? Am I trustworthy? What am I doing that's taking away from trust that I need to take a look at? So one of the things I would invite you to do as we wrap up here is to think about, what are some of the things I can do to provide better value to my customers? Where am I missing it? For instance, with me, I am terrible at getting back to people. Any of you who's a current client and you've dealt with me directly, you know this. I don't get back in a timely manner. So I'm finally hiring an assistant, a personal assistant, to help me out with this. But if you send me an email and I don't get back to you for 3 to 5 days, there's a little bit of that credibility hit of, what are you doing in the meantime? Do you really care about me? So I would invite you to think about, what are 1 or 2 things you can take away from today that can help you build trust and build value? So I told you that there was a special offer here at the end, and I appreciate you all being here. As I said, I wish we could interact just a little bit more, but we're going to send you a recording of the webinar. You're going to get that 21 sales questions to help you build trust and add value to your clients. And then the special offer is this: if you find anything that I do could be of value to you, which would be workshops, so trust-based selling, trust-based leadership. I do a workshop on why your meetings suck. I also do a general leadership. It's called H3 Leadership, how to create holistic leaders. So anything in the leadership development realm, sales coaching, if any of that could be valuable to you, the first 10 of you who reach out to me at some point between now and the end of the year and book between now and the end of the year will get 10% off all of those services.